Some things I found on Facebook, and I know it's a shock. We don't always find things on Facebook that are always productive, but this was something I found back in May, so right when the lockdown was good, and lockdown just came back on. And I shared it with council when it was my turn to lead devotional that particular month. So I'm going to read this, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. I've been struggling lately. This describes exactly how I've been feeling. I pray you will find it helpful as well. We are currently, or just past, the toughest phase of our pandemic experience. To explain what I mean, consider two different states of being: fatigue and depletion. Fatigue is when a muscle or the mind has been used to almost to the point of failure. It requires rest to recuperate. Contrastingly, depletion is when our inner resources of energies have been drained, and this may be no connection or to exertion. One can be depleted without feeling tired, and one can be tired without feeling depleted. Consider an empty glass of water. You can rest for as long as you want, but rest won't replenish its contents. Similarly, your body and your mind are just containers. Your emotions, your intellect, and your spirits are the content. You can only give emotional, intellectual, and spiritual output when your container is overflowing with content. This means you always need more emotional, intellectual, and spiritual output than input. So if you continually draw from your content, you quickly become depleted. People with this overflow are the people we find energized and energizing. On the other hand, depleted people who need others to fill them are often the individuals who drain us. But here's the problem. Because fatigue and depletion can feel the same, we often misdiagnose our condition. We think we are fatigued, so we rest. But in fact, we might be depleted, in which case no amount of rest will restore our inner resources. When we are depleted, we need restoration rather than rest or relaxation. Leaders are currently suffering more from depletion than from fatigue, but few recognize this. Some took summer leave and came back just as exhausted as before, because rest and relaxation alone don't restore depleted inner resources. This is why I think we are in the toughest phase of this pandemic, because we aren't just exhausted, we are depleted. We are depleted because our usual channels of restoration are not readily available to us anymore. We are normally restored by human contact through the exchange of energy and discourse, even in the form of passing interactions with other travelers at airports, servers at restaurants, or attendants in stores. Virtual meetings keep us going, but they don't restore our inner energy. Moreover, on a Zoom call, we are interfacing with a screen and not a person. So how do you know if you're fatigued or depleted? How do you treat depletion? Fatigue generally applies to your body and your mind. Depletion generally applies to your emotions, your intellect, and your spirit. Depletion can give you the feeling of physical or mental exhaustion, but you know it's not fatigue when you're suffering, when rest and relaxation don't replenish you. One way to treat depletion is with restoration, not with relaxation. While relaxation is a passive state of not doing, restoration is a deliberate, active choice of activities different from your routine activities, which adds energy instead of consumes energy. Here are some of the examples of restoration activities: regular prayer or meditation, walking in nature, and pausing to notice all the sights, sounds, and textures around you. Reading something beautiful or inspiring rather than useful. Physically meeting and spending quality time with loved ones for nothing more than connecting and sharing. Listening attentively to music that is harmoniously complex and rich in sound and themes. Applying your mind to a challenge totally unrelated to your work. Check in with yourself, your partner, and your team. Are they fatigued or are they depleted? Explain the differences to them and help them diagnose their state correctly by asking them guiding questions. Just a conversation about depletion can help. I found that very interesting and hard to understand. The fatigue or depletion, as the article said, is hard to understand. Fatigue is simple to understand. For example, us as farmers, as the seeding season just wound down, most of us are tired, but we feel good. We got the crop in, It was easy to put in this year. It was corner to corner. We didn't get stuck too often. And if you did, you shouldn't have been there in the first place, likely. But it was very easy. And we're excited about watching the crop grow. We could use more rain, and we should pray for rain. But still, I was amazed, and I'm always amazed when the crop comes up. Every time I'm done a field, I say, I sowed it too deep or not heavy enough, but it still amazes me that it comes up. It's a good feeling. But when you're depleted, when you're back in the farming, as I am, and I love it, it's when everything goes wrong. It's a late spring. You don't get started till the 10th of June, and it has happened, and you're stuck all the time, and then the tractor breaks down, and things go wrong, and just tires go flat. It's tiring, it's exhausting, and it's also depleting. You don't feel good about, but we do go through that as the season goes on. Just like this April, when this last round of restrictions came about, most people felt depleted. In fact, we were going to Winnipeg that day when it was announced that things were going to lock up again, and we stopped and did business there. Wherever you talk to people, they were all just disgusted and were disappointed in those restrictions that were announced. It was starting to get nice out. We wanted to get outside and yet do something with our friends and neighbors, but the doors were slammed shut. Back to the screen thing again. Visiting online is not the same as visiting in person. Phone calls work great, but still is something about visiting with people. And we noticed that really last year. Stores had been closed last spring and only essential stores were opened. And we happened to go to Winkler one day, do some business there, and we stopped in the one store that was actually open, and we got talking to the clerk there. There was about 3 people in the store, and it was just nice to talk to her. A stranger, never met her before, never seen her since, but it was just nice to visit with someone about something, who knows what, but it is what it is. It felt really good, something different. So one way to refuel your tank is by helping others. In your e-blast, you would have seen an announcement for helpers for the youth program. It would be a huge encouragement to Pastor Brian to have many volunteers. I know last fall when the youth came to our place for a hayride, I think I had more fun watching the kids ride and run on the bales and push the bales around than the kids did. Youth hayrides have been a lot of fun at our place, and we're looking forward to do it again, and we have hosted many. So Brian is looking for anyone. You just need to be young at heart. We have lots of seniors here, but they would love to play games with you. So you can volunteer as well. Just talk to Brian. Another way is Sunday school. We need, what I've been hearing, we're hoping to have Sunday school again this fall. Who knows, but let's get ready. So whenever we can go, we're ready. We need teachers. Let Kristen know if you need help. The verse I chose this morning is in Matthew, and it's kind of a peculiar verse that I chose, or passage I should say, but Matthew 4:18-22. And walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew his brother, were casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." And they immediately left the nets and followed him. And going on from there, he saw 2 brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, in the boat with Zebedee, their father, mending their nets, and he called them. And immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. In this passage, Peter and Andrew were fishing, and Jesus came up to them, and away they went. James and John were fixing nets, and Jesus came, and away they went. Let's put yourself in their shoes for a minute. Here comes a man, you've heard very little about him, and it's probably the rumor mills work just like they do today, so you heard the stories, but are they true? We know the story, we know the background, so put yourself in their shoes. And away they went, they just followed him. Peter and Andrew just up and left the boats, the fishing gear right there. There was no excuses, no stories. I'll come once I'm done fishing for the day or for the season. Then I have to sell my boat and close my business and shut things down. Then I'll come. Nope, none of that. James and John were stories a little different. They left their dad with the boat and the nets. I always often wondered what Zebedee thought about that. His sons all of a sudden just up and left him with the business and the fishing boats. These men had no idea what was in store for them. All the things that they were going to witness, and I'm sure it was amazing what they did. Peter never thought he'd walk on water, but he did. And, all the stories, the stories. I'm sure there were some days they would have liked to be on the boat with the peace and quiet out in the water after all the busy days But those men wanted something new. God had planted a seed, and so how would we react if someone came along and told us, or our kids, come, follow me? I'm sure we would ask a lot of questions, and especially if it's our kids, we'd probably get the law involved and say, like, who is this? Check them out. We would do a little bit of story. We just don't go out and grab and run. So how does this passage and being depleted work together, you ask? It's very easy. When you help something inside you makes you feel good. It's that simple. For example, a month ago or so, there was an email requesting someone to bring meals to anyone that was over 80. So Rhonda and I signed up to bring a meal to a very nice couple. I won't say their names, but we had a good little visit on the doorstep. We were questioned, why would we do such a thing? And I told them it was to show our love to them. Thanks, Hertha, for organizing this, and from what I've heard, it was well received. Just like Peter did. Just like Peter, we just did it. We got it done. We signed up, got it done. There are many, many ways we can help, and I listed a few earlier. Youth, Sunday school, work days at camp, many other things that we can do. And there's other things we can do. We can also visit with our friends and neighbors. We're allowed to visit, so let's do that outside. Let's invite someone over, have football on the deck or on the front lawn, whichever. We can do those things. Let's not make any more excuses. Let's be like the fishermen. Get up, and immediately they went. So is God calling you to go do something for him?